I'm Lord Jimsicle.
And I'm Chris Maddock of Earth.
And you're watching You Have Issues, a programme all about comics. Welcome back to Superman Month, where we take a look at some of the works that make Superman awesome.
Let's go back to the 40s. Superman was extremely popular during his initial comic run, and of course many people wanted to cash in on this success.
Not long after his debut, a successful radio series was commissioned, although that wasn't enough. Nothing could prepare the public for the visual feast they were about to lay their eyes on. Simply titled Superman, or commonly referred to as Fleischer's Superman, are a set of animated shorts that were made in 1941 by brothers Max and Dave Fleischer of the cleverly named Fleischer Studios. This was the same studio that created Popeye, Betty Boop, and the famous Gulliver's Travels feature film. Superman is voiced by Bud Collyer, who was the voice of the character on the radio series. It was Collyer who came up with the idea of Clark and Superman having different voices, with Clark having his voice higher in pitch, but then lowering it when he becomes Superman.
This is a job for Superman.
The animation is absolutely top-notch and is very much ahead of its time, and still makes some modern animation pale in comparison. This seamless animation was achieved through the use of rotoscoping, which was a precursor of motion capture. This was invented by none other than Max Fleischer himself. The visual style is beautiful, and it certainly reflects the era in which it was made.
The Art Deco style is still widely loved to this day, and was the inspiration for the visual style of Bruce Timm's Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series. It also makes use of some very creative transitions. Not only are the Superman cartoons widely referred to as the best superhero animation of all time, this was also the first time a superhero was depicted in animation, and it's also responsible for some of the most well-known aspects of the character. For instance, prior to this cartoon, Superman couldn't fly. He could only leap long distances, and it was the studio who suggested that Superman fly, as it would be easier to animate rather than having him hopping around like a flea.
The episodes have a seemingly standard format, which consists of Clark and Lois being sent to report on some kind of evil scheme happening in Metropolis. Lois is far from being a damsel in distress, but yet still manages to end up getting herself in sticky situations, only to be bailed out by Superman. These disasters are usually executed by an archetypal mad scientist.
Especially this guy, he's bald, so he's definitely evil. These villains were not adapted from pre-existing characters from the comics, so they were allowed to be a bit more creative. This was probably for the best, as the later cartoons from the studio focused on World War II propaganda, which led to some rather jarring depictions of the Japanese, just to name one example. As bad as that is, it's nothing compared to this cover of Action Comics from 1943. Yeah, Superman wasn't always a nice guy.
The use of newspaper headlines as exposition and as bookends is quite clever, and every episode ends with Clark having the last laugh. The episodes are mostly set in Metropolis, but sometimes are set in other remote locations, and each episode has a standalone format, which means there is no solid continuity in the series as a whole. There is almost always large-scale damage to Metropolis, and in the next episode, the damage appears to have been repaired, or not happened at all. This wouldn't bother most people, but it actually makes the series quite easy to get into. You can start absolutely anywhere you want, and still be able to enjoy the whole series.
Superman himself is portrayed rather well. His invulnerability is at an even level, as he does get knocked back by enemy attacks, but still perseveres to stop the bad guys. This series consists of Superman performing extraordinary feats and using his powers along with lateral thinking to stop disasters rather than going toe-to-toe with bad guys, which is still just as good. He's not too overpowered either, as he puts up a struggle against threats such as stopping this locomotive.
There are even nods to other DC characters. The circus featured in the episode Terror on the Midway has a cameo from the Flying Graysons.
What, really?
No, of course not, you idiot!
The show is widely available on DVD, but it's also in the public domain, so every single episode is available for viewing on YouTube.
Do yourselves a huge favour and check out the show. It's awesome.
Thank you for watching this episode of You Have Issues.
And stay tuned for more Superman Month.